London, October 1924. The Great War had ended, and the city was changing. New buildings rose from ruins, jazz music floated from Soho clubs, and people tried to forget the past. But in Belgrave Square, the past wasn't finished. Inspector Thomas Caldwell had been invited to a party by an old friend. She said it was just a birthday celebration, but something about her letter told him this wasn't a social call. The invitation to Lady Eleanor Harrington's birthday celebration at her Belgrave Square mansion had arrived unexpectedly. Caldwell hadn't seen Eleanor since before the war, when they'd moved in the same social circles. He'd been the son of a baronet then, with prospects and a future, before the trenches of the Somme had claimed his inheritance and left him with nothing but nightmares and a police detective's badge. "Inspector!" A young constable hurried toward him through the mist. "Constable Morris, reporting, sir." Jennifer Morris was an anomaly in the Metropolitan Police, one of the few female officers permitted following the Sex Disqualification Removal Act of 1919. Most were relegated to typing pools or dealing with women and children, but Morris had proven herself exceptional during the Limehouse Strangler case. "We're here as guests, Constable, not officials," Caldwell reminded her as they approached the imposing white mansion at number 16 Belgrave Square. Lady Harrington specifically requested our presence. "Seems odd, sir," Morris replied, her London accent contrasting with Caldwell's polished tones. "An aristocrat inviting police to a birthday celebration." "Eleanor and I were acquainted before the war," Caldwell said, his expression revealing nothing. She mentioned concern in her note. Something about threats. The door opened before they reached it, revealing Simmons, the Harrington butler, his face a mask of professional detachment. "Inspector Caldwell, Constable Morris, Lady Harrington is expecting you in the library." The house was a testament to wealth accumulated over generations: crystal chandeliers, oil paintings in gilded frames, Persian carpets muffling their footsteps. A gramophone played the latest American jazz somewhere in the distance. Lady Eleanor Harrington waited in the library, standing by a window overlooking the private garden at the centre of Belgrave Square. At 45, she remained striking. Dark hair threaded with silver, aristocratic features, and keen eyes that missed nothing. "Thomas," she said, extending her hand, "how long has it been?" 7 years. "8, my lady," Caldwell replied, taking her hand briefly. "May I present Constable Jennifer Morris?" Eleanor nodded to Morris, then moved to a sideboard with crystal decanters. "Drink? The Americans may have their prohibition, but thankfully we're more sensible here." "No, thank you. You mentioned concerns in your letter." Eleanor's face cracked momentarily. "Yes, I've received threats. At first I dismissed them as nonsense, but they've become more specific." She retrieved an envelope from a desk drawer and handed it to Caldwell. "This arrived yesterday." The message, composed of letters cut from newspapers, read, "Return what you stole or die on your birthday. The past always collects its debts." "Any idea what they're referring to?" Caldwell asked. "None whatsoever," Eleanor replied, but Caldwell noted the slight tremor in her hand as she lit a cigarette in a long holder. "I've acquired many things over the years, Thomas, but stolen nothing." "Who knows about these threats?" "No one, and I'd prefer to keep it that way. My guests arrive tomorrow for the weekend. I want you both here, as guests ostensibly, but vigilant." Before Caldwell could respond, the library door opened. A young woman entered, her fashionable dress and bobbed hair the epitome of a modern flapper. "Aunt Eleanor, the florist needs to know about the—" She stopped, noticing the visitors. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had guests." "My niece, Violet Harrington," Eleanor said smoothly. "Violet, this is Inspector Caldwell and Constable Morris, old friends." Violet's eyes narrowed slightly. "Police? Is there a problem?" "None at all," Eleanor assured her. They're here for my birthday celebration. Thomas is an old family friend. Violet smiled, but the expression didn't reach her eyes. How lovely. I'll leave you to catch up then. After she left, Eleanor sighed. My late husband's niece. She's lived with me since her parents died in the influenza epidemic. Brilliant girl. Studied at Newnham College, Cambridge. One of those modern women with ideas. The guest list, Caldwell prompted. Yes, of course. Eleanor provided a paper with names. 20 guests altogether, family, friends, business associates. Caldwell scanned the list. Richard Harrington, your son? Yes. Recently returned from India. He's been distant since his father died. And Sir William Blackwood, the shipping magnate? My late husband's business partner. Blackwood Harrington Shipping has been struggling since the war and the economic downturn. William is bringing his new wife, Lillian, a dancer from the Café de Paris, though we're all pretending not to know that. Caldwell continued. Lord and Lady Montague. James Montague sits in the House of Lords. His wife, Emilia, is American. New money, but aren't they all these days? Now, there's one more person not on the list. Alexander Fleming. She paused. He's our new groundskeeper, Scottish fellow. Keeps to himself, but excellent with the gardens. There's something unusual about him. We'll need rooms near yours, Caldwell said, and access to all areas of the house. Already arranged. Eleanor crushed out her cigarette. I'm trusting you, Thomas. Whatever happens tomorrow night, I need you to be ready. As they left the library, Constable Morris whispered, She's hiding something, sir. Everyone in this house is hiding something, Constable, Caldwell replied. By tomorrow night, we'll know what it is. The following evening, guests began arriving at Belgrave Square. Caldwell, dressed in evening attire that felt foreign after years in uniform and then plain clothes, observed from the landing of the grand staircase. Richard Harrington arrived first. Tall, tanned from years in colonial service, with a permanent expression of disdain. He greeted his mother with cold formality. Caldwell noticed something peculiar. Richard's gaze lingered briefly on Fleming, who was adjusting flowers in the entryway. A subtle nod passed between them, so quick Caldwell almost missed it. Inspector, Morris murmured, appearing beside Caldwell. She looked transformed in a modest evening dress, her police identity concealed. I've been speaking with the staff. Lady Harrington and her son argued violently yesterday. Apparently, he's deeply in debt, gambling in Mayfair clubs since his return. Motive? Caldwell mused. He inherits everything if she dies, Morris confirmed. The niece also stands to benefit significantly. Staff say she's brilliant, studied archaeology at Cambridge under Professor Petrie. Apparently quite gifted with ancient artifacts and old mechanisms. But for all her education, she has few opportunities. Her aunt's generous allowance is all that keeps her from taking a typing position. Sir William Blackwood and his young wife arrived next. Blackwood was corpulent, red-faced, with the characteristic swagger of the newly rich. His wife, barely 30, sparkled with diamonds. Blackwood's company is failing, Caldwell said quietly. My contacts at Scotland Yard say he's been selling assets secretly. Lady Harrington's shares could save him. The Montagues swept in with aristocratic assurance. Lord James Montague, discussing politics loudly with another guest, held court near the fireplace with the air of a man used to power. Caldwell watched him carefully. Years ago, Montague had been entangled in some delicate dealings in Cairo, whispers of missing artifacts and diplomatic tensions that never quite made the papers. Henry Harrington had been part of that circle too. Caldwell had never quite managed to separate the facts from the rumours, but he remembered one thing clearly. Henry died not long after their association ended. Violet flitted between guests, the perfect hostess. Though Caldwell noted she watched her aunt with an intensity that suggested more than familial concern. By 8 o'clock, The grand dining room buzzed with conversation. Caldwell found himself seated between Lady Montague and an elderly duchess, who spoke incessantly about meeting the newly crowned King George V at Buckingham Palace. "The royal family has never recovered from the war," Lady Montague confided in her American accent. "All those royal cousins fighting, the king, the Kaiser, the Tsar, and now the Tsar murdered by Bolsheviks. They say King George refused to rescue his cousin Nicholas. Could you imagine sacrificing family for politics?" Across the table, Eleanor presided with regal confidence, giving no hint of yesterday's fears. The only disruption came when Richard knocked over a wine glass during a heated exchange with Sir William. "And I say the Colonial Office has completely mishandled the Egyptian situation," Richard was saying. "The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb, and now this nationalist uprising, it's making British rule untenable." "You've been out of England too long," Blackwood retorted. "You've missed the real upheaval here. The general strike is coming, mark my words. These Union men will destroy everything." After dinner, Eleanor rose. "I suggest the gentlemen enjoy their port in the library. Ladies, shall we withdraw to the drawing-room, and then perhaps some music in the conservatory?" Caldwell observed the subtle nod Eleanor gave him. The evening was progressing as planned, yet tension hung in the air like the cigarette smoke that clouded the high ceilings. During a moment when the other guests were distracted, Caldwell noticed Eleanor slip into a small antechamber off the main hallway with Lord Montague. He positioned himself near the door, pretending to admire a painting while listening. "I've made my decision, James." Eleanor's voice was firm. "Tomorrow morning I'm taking everything to the Commissioner. Your political career ends at dawn." "You wouldn't dare," Montague hissed. "Think of the scandal." "I've thought of nothing else for years. It's over. Justice for Henry cannot wait any longer." In the library, Caldwell maintained his cover while noting every detail. Richard Harrington spoke intensely with Lord Montague in a corner after the confrontation. Sir William Blackwood drank heavily, his jovial face slipping to reveal a desperate man. And through the window, Caldwell spotted the groundskeeper, Fleming, moving near the garden fountain, watching the illuminated windows. By midnight, the party had moved to the conservatory where a hired quartet played Debussy. Eleanor, seemingly at ease, announced, "At midnight, I shall open my birthday gifts. A childish tradition, perhaps, but one I insist upon." The guests gathered around as Eleanor sat before a table of wrapped presents. Caldwell positioned himself by the door, Morris near the windows. Eleanor opened each gift with theatrical appreciation. A first edition of Mrs. Dalloway from Violet, Egyptian scarabs from Richard, pearls from the Blackwoods. Then she lifted a small package wrapped in plain brown paper. "How curious," she said. "No card." As she unwrapped it, her expression changed from curiosity to horror. Inside was a small silver box. When she opened it, there was a soft mechanical click, followed by a fine mist that sprayed directly toward her face. A folded paper fell out. Eleanor read it silently, her face draining of colour. Without a word, she stood and rushed from the room. "Aunt Eleanor!" Violet called, but she was already gone. Caldwell moved quickly, following Eleanor up the grand staircase toward her bedroom. In the corridor, he caught up with her. "What was in the note?" he demanded. She thrust the paper at him, hands shaking. It read, "The Cairo diamond belongs to me. Return it by dawn, or the truth about Henry's death becomes public." "The Cairo diamond?" Caldwell questioned. "Eleanor, what is this about?" "I can't," she began, then clutched her throat, gasping. "Thomas, I can't breathe." She collapsed against him, her body convulsing. "Help!" Caldwell shouted. "Get a doctor!" But as the household erupted into chaos, Caldwell knew it was already too late. Lady Eleanor Harrington was dying in his arms, poisoned at her own birthday celebration. And the Cairo diamond, whatever it was, had just become the key to murder. Dawn broke over London, revealing a clear autumn day that contrasted sharply with the pall hanging over Belgrave Square. Lady Eleanor Harrington had been pronounced dead just after midnight by a physician guest, apparent heart failure the preliminary cause. But Caldwell knew better. The silver box had contained a spring-loaded mechanism that released cyanide gas directly toward Eleanor's face when she opened it. The local police had arrived, but Caldwell's telephone had rung shortly after their arrival. "Inspector Caldwell," a cultured voice had said, "I understand you're handling the Harrington matter. The Home Secretary has a particular interest in this case, remaining contained. You'll have full operational authority. Local police have been instructed to cooperate." Chief Inspector Ransom had grudgingly conceded jurisdiction once Caldwell explained the circumstances. "The house is sealed," Morris reported, finding Caldwell in the morning room, where he'd established a temporary headquarters. "No one leaves until we determine what happened." "And the note? The box?" "Both gone, sir. I searched her body and the surroundings myself. Someone took them during the commotion." Caldwell frowned. "The killer? Retrieving evidence? What about the mysterious gift?" "Staff say all packages were delivered yesterday and placed in the library. Anyone could have added one to the pile." The door opened and Richard Harrington entered, his face ashen but composed. "Inspector, I understand you're investigating my mother's death." "My condolences, Mr. Harrington. I need to ask you some questions." Richard sat stiffly. "My mother and I had our differences, but I never wished her harm." "Tell me about the Cairo diamond," asked Caldwell. Richard's eyes widened slightly. "How do you—" He hesitated. "It's a family story, nothing more. A diamond my father allegedly acquired in Cairo in 1908. He claimed it was worth a fortune, but after his death in 1919, it was never found." "Your father's death? What happened?" "Hunting accident at our country estate. Mother was with him. The inquest ruled it misadventure." Caldwell studied him. "And your relationship with your mother since then?" "Strained. She controlled the estate, the business interests. I received an allowance like a child." His bitterness was palpable. "Yes, I have debts. Every man in London does, after the economic chaos of recent years. But I didn't kill her." "I noticed you seemed to recognize Fleming, the groundskeeper." Richard hesitated. "We've met before, in passing. Colonial circles." After Richard left, Morris entered with Violet, whose red-rimmed eyes contrasted with her composed demeanour. "Miss Harrington, what do you know about the Cairo diamond?" Violet looked surprised. "Uncle Henry's obsession. He claimed it was cursed, taken from an Egyptian tomb during an archaeological expedition. Aunt Eleanor always said it was his fantasy." "Why?" "It may be relevant. Your aunt received a threatening note mentioning it." "That's absurd. The diamond never existed." She paused. "Inspector, I know Richard and I both benefit from Aunt Eleanor's death, but I loved her. She gave me a home when the Spanish flu took my parents. She supported my education when most women were still expected to simply marry well." "Did she mention any fears to you? Any concerns?" "No, but—" Violet hesitated. "Last week I found her in the library with some old papers. She was burning them in the fireplace. When I asked what they were, she said, 'The past, my dear. Sometimes it's best reduced to ashes.'" Throughout the day, Caldwell interviewed each guest. Sir William Blackwood admitted his company faced ruin. Lady Harrington had been threatening to sell her shares, which would have given control to foreign investors. "It would destroy everything my partner Henry and I built," Blackwood said gruffly. "But murder? Preposterous." Lord Montague revealed that Eleanor had possessed damaging information about his political dealings, rumoured negotiations with Irish Republican sympathisers that would destroy his career if exposed. By evening, Caldwell had established that nearly everyone had motives and opportunity. The gift could have been placed by anyone. The poison could have been administered in multiple ways. As dusk fell, Caldwell ventured into the garden where Alexander Fleming, the groundskeeper, was pruning roses despite the circumstances. The police said to carry on, Fleming explained in his Scottish brogue. Gardens don't wait for human tragedy. How long have you worked for Lady Harrington? 6 months. After the war, jobs were scarce for men like me. Men like you? Fleming straightened, revealing a military bearing Caldwell recognised immediately. Soldiers who came back changed, Inspector. Lady Harrington offered me this position when no one else would hire me. Did you know her before? Our paths crossed in Cairo, 1908. I was a young officer then. Fleming's eyes revealed nothing. She recognised me when I applied for the position, said everyone deserved a second chance. Cairo, Caldwell repeated. When the diamond was acquired? Fleming's expression remained neutral. I wouldn't know about that, sir. As darkness descended, Caldwell and Morris met in the library to review their findings. The staff confirmed Lady Harrington instructed them to admit no one to her suite, Morris reported. She kept it locked at all times. Then how did she receive the threatening notes? Caldwell wondered. Unless they came from inside the house. A soft knock interrupted them. Simmons, the butler, entered with a small wooden box. Inspector, this was among her ladyship's personal effects. She left instructions that in the event of her death, it should be given to you. Inside was a leather journal and a sealed envelope addressed to Thomas Caldwell. The letter was brief and read, Thomas, if you are reading this, my fears were justified. The truth about Henry's death, the Cairo diamond, and the blood on my hands is in this journal. Trust no one in this house, not even those closest to me. The answers are in the Egyptian collection at the British Museum. Eleanor. Caldwell opened the journal and began to read Eleanor's flowing script, detailing events from 1908 forward. The Cairo diamond was real, a massive blue stone acquired under questionable circumstances during an archaeological expedition funded by Henry Harrington. The stone had disappeared after Henry's death, along with documentation proving its existence. Sir, Morris said urgently, there's something else. I've been researching the guests. Lady Montague's maiden name was Hawkins. Her father was Professor James Hawkins. The archaeologist who led the Cairo expedition, Caldwell finished, looking up from the journal. Eleanor mentions him here. A sudden crash from the hallway interrupted them. They rushed out to find Violet standing over the form of Alexander Fleming, blood seeping from a cut on his scalp. I found him like this, she stammered. I was coming to find you. Caldwell knelt beside the groundskeeper. He was conscious but dazed, a gash running along his temple. Head wounds look worse than they are, Inspector, Fleming muttered, pressing a handkerchief to the cut. 5 stitches and I'll be operational again. I've had worse in Cairo. In his other hand was clutched a torn piece of paper that matched the note Eleanor had received. Someone's eliminating loose ends, Caldwell said grimly. Morris, get him medical attention and find Richard Harrington immediately. But Richard was nowhere to be found. His room was empty, clothes missing. He had slipped away during the confusion. Sir, Morris said, returning, Fleming's quarters in the Mews have been ransacked, and I found this. She handed him a faded photograph showing a group of people in Cairo, Henry Harrington, a younger Eleanor, Professor Hawkins, and a young soldier who was unmistakably Alexander Fleming. The past always collects its debts, Caldwell murmured. What happened in Cairo 16 years ago? As if in answer, the telephone rang. Simmons answered, then turned to Caldwell. Inspector, it's for you. A man who wouldn't give his name. He says it's about the Cairo diamond. The voice on the telephone was disguised, muffled. British Museum, Egyptian Collection, midnight. Come alone if you want the truth about Eleanor Harrington. Caldwell replaced the receiver, his mind racing. A trap, most likely. You can't go alone, Morris insisted. I won't. You'll accompany me, but remain outside as backup. Alert Ransom to have officers nearby. Fleming touched his bandaged head. I'm coming too. My connections may be useful. As Caldwell prepared to leave, Violet appeared in the doorway. I know what you're planning. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. The Egyptian collection was my specialty at university, she explained. And I know what you're looking for. The Anubis statuette that my uncle donated to the museum in 1910. It's connected to the diamond, isn't it? Caldwell hesitated, then nodded. How did you know? Aunt Eleanor's journal. I found it once years ago. She wrote about the statuette having a secret compartment. Violet's eyes were determined. I want justice for my aunt, Inspector. And I think I know who we're meeting. It's Richard. Against his better judgment, Caldwell agreed. By 11:30 they were approaching the imposing frontage of the British Museum through a light London fog. Morris remained outside, whistle ready to summon nearby officers. At the side entrance, Fleming produced a key from his pocket. Let's just say I have certain arrangements with the museum trustees. National security occasionally requires discretion. Caldwell raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The mystery surrounding the groundskeeper deepened. Inside, the cavernous halls were silent, their treasures shrouded in darkness. This way, Violet whispered, leading Caldwell through galleries of ancient artifacts. The Egyptian collection is in the East Wing. They moved silently past mummies in glass cases, past hieroglyphic tablets chronicling the lives of pharaohs. Finally, they reached a large gallery where moonlight filtered through high windows, illuminating displays of Egyptian treasures. There, Violet pointed to a black jackal statue prominently displayed in a central case. The Anubis statuette, guardian of the dead. Before they could approach it, a figure stepped from the shadows. I knew you'd come, Inspector. It wasn't Richard, but Lord James Montague, holding a revolver, though I didn't expect company. Lord Montague, Caldwell acknowledged calmly. Or should I say, the man who's been threatening Lady Harrington. Montague smiled coldly. Clever. Yes, I sent the notes. Eleanor thought she could blackmail me about my Irish connections. Little did she know I had far more damaging information about her. The truth about Henry's death, Caldwell said. It wasn't an accident. Far from it. Henry Harrington discovered that his wife and my future wife had conspired to steal the Cairo diamond. Eleanor shot him to keep him quiet. Emilia, then Miss Hawkins, helped her conceal the crime. And you've been blackmailing Eleanor ever since you found out, Caldwell concluded. Business, Inspector. Politics requires funding. But when Eleanor threatened to expose my Irish dealings, I had to act. So you killed her. The poison was meant as a threat, not a death sentence. She must have been more fragile than she appeared. Montague gestured with the gun. Now, Miss Harrington, please open the case and retrieve the statuette. Violet hesitated, then moved to the display. She withdrew a hairpin from her hair and began working on the lock with practiced precision. Henry Harrington had insisted all his expedition members learn this skill after they were trapped in a sealed chamber in Luxor. The lock clicked open. You won't get away with this. I already have. Richard Harrington has fled the country, appearing guilty. You'll both have unfortunate accidents here tonight. Intruders in the museum. Montague's voice was chillingly calm. Now, the base of the statuette twists counterclockwise. Violet removed the jackal figure and examined the base. With a soft click, a hidden compartment opened. Inside was not a diamond, but a folded document preserved in what appeared to be a vacuum-sealed chamber. A common museum conservative technique. The deed of ownership, Montague explained. The diamond itself is in a vault at Coutts Bank. This document is the only legal proof of its existence and the only evidence linking Eleanor to Henry's murder. Her signature, his blood. And Fleming? Asked Caldwell. He was there in Cairo. A loose end I've yet to tie up. Montague extended his hand. The document, Miss Harrington. Instead of complying, Violet clutched the paper tightly and said angrily, "You killed my aunt. Your aunt was a murderess who lived in luxury while better men died in trenches," Montague snarled, his composure cracking. "The document now!" A new voice echoed through the gallery. "Drop the gun, Montague." Alexander Fleming emerged from behind a sarcophagus, his head bandaged but his aim steady as he pointed his own revolver. "Fleming?" Montague said coldly. "Still playing the loyal servant?" "I was never serving Eleanor," Fleming replied. "I've been with British intelligence since the war, investigating the Cairo diamond. It wasn't just any gem, it was stolen from the Egyptian government, causing a diplomatic incident that's fueled anti-British sentiment for years. We've been building a case against all involved." "Then you know Eleanor murdered her husband," Montague said. "I know Henry Harrington was shot," Fleming corrected, "but not by his wife. The ballistics never matched your story. We recovered the bullet from the hunting accident. It came from a Webley revolver, the same model you carry, Lord Montague." Montague's expression changed from confidence to alarm. "You can't prove anything." "Eleanor suspected you all along," Caldwell said, the pieces finally falling into place. "That's why she contacted me, and why she hired Fleming. She was gathering evidence against you." "She wasn't blackmailing anyone," Fleming added. "She was identifying your network, playing the role of blackmailer to see who was under your thumb." "For a woman who married into wealth, Eleanor was remarkably clever," Fleming continued. "She figured out you killed Henry and framed her. She's been waiting for you to make your final move." Montague's face contorted with rage. He swung his gun toward Violet. "Then she'll have died for nothing." Multiple things happened simultaneously. Fleming fired, Caldwell lunged forward, and from the gallery entrance, Constable Morris's voice rang out, "Police! Drop your weapon." Montague's shot went wild, shattering an ancient vase. Fleming's bullet found its mark in Montague's shoulder. The Lord crumpled to the ground as police officers swarmed the gallery. "Perfect timing, Constable," Caldwell said as Morris approached, "though I told you to remain outside." "Forgive me for disobeying orders, sir," Morris replied without remorse, "but I had help deciding when to intervene." From behind her stepped Richard Harrington. "Inspector, I believe you've been looking for me." Dawn was breaking over London as Caldwell, Morris and Richard Harrington sat in the small office at Scotland Yard. Lord Montague was in custody, his gunshot wound treated. Fleming had disappeared, recalled to his intelligence duties. Violet was resting at Belgrave Square under police protection. "You didn't flee," Caldwell said to Richard. "I received a note, allegedly from you, telling me to meet at the Savoy Hotel. When I arrived, Fleming was waiting. He explained he suspected a trap was being set and needed me away from the house." Richard looked exhausted. "He told me everything. How my father was killed by Montague, who wanted the diamond and forged documents implicating my mother." "How did you know Fleming?" Richard smiled faintly. "We met in Cairo years ago, when I was just a boy. Then our paths crossed again during the war, though I had no idea he was working for intelligence until yesterday. I recognized him immediately when I arrived, despite his gardener's disguise." "And the Cairo diamond itself?" "A blue diamond of extraordinary size and clarity, acquired during an expedition my father funded. The Egyptian government claimed it was stolen from a newly discovered tomb. My father maintained it was legally purchased from local diggers." "Why didn't your mother clear her name?" Morris asked. "The political implications were too dangerous," Richard explained. "British-Egyptian relations were deteriorating. A scandal involving a stolen national treasure could have sparked violence against British citizens in Cairo. My mother chose silence." "Until Montague began blackmailing her," Caldwell added. "First for money, then for political favours. And she suspected he was behind my father's death, but couldn't prove it." Richard's voice cracked. "She protected me by saying nothing." Caldwell nodded slowly. Your mother was a remarkable woman. She orchestrated this entire investigation, knowing she might not survive to see it concluded. The ultimate sacrifice, Morris murmured. Later, as they walked along the embankment, watching the Thames flow beneath Westminster Bridge, Caldwell and Morris reviewed the case. The press will have a field day, Morris said. Peer of the realm, arrested for murder, international intrigue, stolen treasures. Montague will claim diplomatic immunity, cite national security, Caldwell replied. But the evidence is overwhelming. The ballistics from Henry Harrington's murder match Montague's revolver. And we have the forged documents. What about the diamond? Fleming implied it's been quietly returned to Egypt as part of ongoing diplomatic negotiations. King Fuad's government will be satisfied with justice and the return of their national treasure. As if to confirm this, Fleming approached them, handing Caldwell a newspaper. A small headline read, "King Fuad of Egypt praises British goodwill gift." Not the complete truth, Fleming commented, but diplomatic circles understand the real message. The diamond has gone home, and with it, a potential diplomatic incident has been averted. Caldwell and Morris took a short walk, looking across at the Houses of Parliament, where Big Ben struck 9. The morning light glinted off the Gothic towers, symbols of a power that had stretched across the globe, but was now beginning to wane. England is changing, Caldwell said softly. The old aristocracy, the imperial mindset that allowed men like Montague to believe they could take whatever they wanted. It's fading. A new world is emerging from the ashes of war. And where do we fit in that world, sir? Morris asked. Before Caldwell could answer, a sleek black car pulled alongside them, the window lowered to reveal Alexander Fleming. "Inspector Caldwell, Constable Morris." He nodded. "I came to say goodbye. I've been reassigned." "Cairo?" Caldwell guessed. Fleming smiled slightly. "Let's just say His Majesty's government is most grateful for your discretion in this matter." "What about Lady Harrington? Will her name be cleared?" "Officially, she died of heart failure. The true circumstances of her husband's death will remain classified." Fleming handed Caldwell an envelope. "But she left this for you. A private vindication, perhaps." After the car departed, Caldwell opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph of Eleanor and Henry in happier days and a brief note. Caldwell read, "Some secrets are worth dying for. Others are worth living to expose. Choose wisely, Thomas. The game is changing. Eleanor." "Sir," Morris prompted. Caldwell tucked the note away. "It seems we've been invited to play a longer game, Constable. Lady Harrington was investigating more than just her husband's murder. She was unravelling a network of corruption reaching into the highest levels of government. And she wanted us to continue her work," Morris concluded, her expression determined. As they walked toward Whitehall, where the machinery of British government churned, regardless of scandal or tragedy, Caldwell felt the weight of Eleanor's final request. The case of the Cairo diamond was closed, but the greater mystery was just beginning. The truth about what happened at Belgrave Square never reached the public. History recorded Lord Montague's sudden resignation from Parliament as a health matter and Lady Eleanor Harrington's death as natural causes. The Cairo diamond disappeared from all records. But in a small office at Scotland Yard, a war-damaged inspector and his unconventional constable began to unravel threads that would lead them into the heart of a conspiracy that spanned continents and decades. Some mysteries end with an arrest. Others merely pause, waiting for the next chapter to begin. The end. If you love dark twists and unexpected endings, then consider subscribing. I post new crime stories every week.